Welcome to the Public Works Committee meeting for the City of Rapid City on Tuesday, October 14th, 2014. I'd like to begin with a determination of quorum and a roll call, please.
Lewis. Here. Doyle. Here. Roberts. Here. Scott. Here. Wright. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Now's the time to adopt the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda or propose changes or modifications. Motion to adopt. Got a motion by Lewis to adopt, second by Roberts. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda has been adopted. Now's the time for general public comment. This is a time for members of the public to discuss any items or opinions that are not covered by any items on the agenda. At this time, I do not have any speaker request forms. Is there anyone I've missed? Seeing none, we'll move on to consent items, public comment. Consent items are items 1 through 16 on today's agenda. Public comment is now open. I do have one speaker request form for item number 8 on the consent items. Stephen McCarthy. Sir, if you could approach the podium, state your name and affiliation, and you've got 3 minutes to give us your expression of opinions on item number 8. Item number 8, while he approaches the podium, is an addendum to the agreement between the City of Rapid City and Destination Rapid City for the construction and development of Memorial Park Promenade and approved updated West Memorial Park implementation plan. Sir, you have the floor.
My name is Steve McCarthy. I'm the president of Friends of Rapid City. I'm here on behalf of that organization to express our opposition to this agreement. This parking proposal in various forms has been before you, or at least 4 or 5 times during the year. It's been modified as being downtown parking, and then legacy parking, and then some more downtown parking. And finally, it's now here with the removal of the park and ride aspect of it, and we congratulate the city for hopefully not pursuing a park and ride there. But what I'm here to talk about is what we have left. We have a 270 parking lot facility on that corner. I don't know if you know it, but there are less than 270 parking places in the biggest park in Rapid City, and that's Canyon Lake Park. Canyon Lake Park has 5 parking lots, 2 picnic shelters, a lake, and 3 tot parks, and it has about 250 parking spots. So this thing is gargantuan in size for what is intended. The intended explained purpose is to provide parking for Legacy Park. But I think we all know in the end it's an attempt by downtown Rapid City to spend their money, their deep pockets, to get a parking lot to park downtown patrons and downtown businesses. And that's the thing that's expressly prohibited by this. So we're here to ask you to just consider, if you would, a 280-unit parking lot on that corner in Memorial Park, a park that was dedicated to the memory of all the people who died in the flood. Mr. Hillenbrand and Mr. Sefner have done lots of good things in town here, but I think when you take over a park, that is not especially a good thing to do. And I'm afraid that just because you have deep pockets and a lot of money, and you can come before this council and you can get things done. But that's not what the 4 of you are up there for. You're up there, I think, to decide what's best for this community and what Memorial Park was intended for, and to take care of your constituents, and not to jump at something like this just because it sounds like a good deal because somebody else is paying for it. I encourage you to vote against this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I currently do not have any other speaker request forms for consent items 1 through 16. Am I missing anyone? Seeing none, public comment is now closed on consent items 1 through 16. I'll entertain removal of any items from any committee members up here. Chair recognizes Alderman Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Number 8.
Any other items to be removed? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt or approve items 1 through 16, except item number 8 on the consent calendar. I've got a motion by Doyle to approve items 1 through 16, except item number 8. Got a second by Lewis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Items 1 through 16 have been approved, except item number 8. Item number 8 is under consideration. Item number 8 is the addendum to the agreement between the City of Rapid City and Destination Rapid City for the construction and development of Memorial Park Promenade and approve updated West Memorial Park implementation plan. Chair recognizes Alderman Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. McCarthy, can I ask you a question, please?
Yes, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, sir. My question to you is, since we removed the park and ride off of there, is Destination or not Destination, I'm sorry, the Friends of the Park, are they going to stop the lawsuit that they'd proposed against the city?
Yes, there'll be no lawsuit on our behalf against the city because you are not using parkland for other purposes other than designated by the state of South Dakota. Yes, we're very much in favor of the fact that your intention is not to park and ride. I can't imagine what your intention is to do with 270 spaces on that corner, and we're afraid that down the road that's going to come back up to us. But we are not pursuing a lawsuit because of a potential violation of that legislation.
You are or you're not?
We're not. We're not pursuing it this time, and
Okay.
wouldn't unless it was changed into a park and ride facility.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's my only question.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion on item number 8 at this time. Options are to approve, deny, or send to council without recommendation, or continue.
Second.
Got a motion by Lewis to send to council without recommendation, second by Roberts. Any further discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're now on to public comment for non-consent items, items 17 and 18. I do have one speaker request form for item number 17. Helen Christopherson? If you could approach the podium, and while you're coming up to the podium, item number 17 is a discussion on sidewalk for parcel ID located on Middle Valley Drive. And if you could state your name and your affiliation to the city, and you've got 3 minutes to give us your opinions on item number 17.
My husband and I live at 515 Middle Valley Drive. My name is Helen Christopherson. My husband is in a wheelchair, and there's a parcel of land down the street from us. We live on the steep hill, sort of down to the end of it. We have one other house, and then it starts the parcel of land that has not been taken care of at all. The weeds have grown since we built there for 4 years. No one has claimed it. And there is a ramp on the other side of our neighbor that he can cross the street. But so far, he's quit walking with me because he has almost gotten hit twice because they speed down the hill, and he's in a wheelchair, and he can't go quite as fast as that chair or as that car coming down the road. So we're asking to see if we can find someone who will take responsibility for putting in the sidewalk so that part of Middle Valley will be complete so that he can, in his chair, go down the street and walk in our neighborhood. And I've tried to get the name of the people that own that property with no luck. I've gotten their name, but it's a post box number. At first they told me from here that it was in, I believe, Gillette. So I called Gillette, and they don't have anything other than the name and a post box, but it's not in Gillette. They said in Cheyenne. So I called Cheyenne, and all they have is a post box number. So I'm asking you to help us get the sidewalk completed. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speaker request forms for item number 17 and 18? Seeing none, public comment is now closed on non-consent items 17 and 18. We're taking item number 17 into consideration. This is a discussion on the sidewalk for parcel ID located on Middle Valley Drive, and this was brought forward by Alderwoman Doyle. Chair recognizes Alderwoman Doyle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess in addition to what Ms. Christopherson shared with us, give a little bit of background. We have looked into this parcel. Evidently, like she indicated, it is owned by someone in Wyoming. This is the last segment in a built-out neighborhood, where we've been, as a council, saying that we want to support contiguous sidewalks and completed sidewalk systems for various reasons. It's in our bicycle and pedestrian safety plan, our master plan. It's in all of the initiatives that the YMCA is doing. There's a lot of drive to get these things done. Now, normally we're faced with a situation where it's an older neighborhood and sidewalks have never been installed. Somebody wants to pull a permit to put an addition on their home or do some kind of improvements, and all of a sudden they have to put in a sidewalk. So now there's this one little piece of sidewalk in a sea of no sidewalks. This is the exact opposite of that. Another thing to take into consideration is we did run this issue through the Mayor's Committee for People with Disabilities, and I have wholehearted permission from Mr. Tom Collings, the chair of that committee, to say that we need to do this. We need to finish this. There's obviously an identified need. Aside from the fact that the lot itself has not been taken care of, we did find out that it's not developable. So there's no reason why there's not ever going to be a home permit that's going to trigger installation of this sidewalk. So I think it's time to get it in, and my question for staff would be, what process do we need to go through to get the ball rolling? Do you want an immediate approval? Do you need to talk to the property owner first and get the ball rolling that way? I know the fear is that the fear and probably inevitability is that the city's going to end up taking over that lot since it's a drainage lot. But what can we do, Dale? What are our choices?
Chair recognizes Dale Tech.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe if you are intent in getting this done, and I believe that, yes, we should have sidewalks in every residential street in the city, direct staff or order the sidewalk in on the property. We'll send the appropriate notification to the property owner and take appropriate action. One thing to keep in mind, since there will be no structural development on this lot, since it's a drainage lot, there's not going to be winter maintenance then. Without somebody there, I think you're going to have a continuous maintenance issue of the sidewalk not getting plowed in the wintertime, and we'll have to rely on code enforcement to get that done. Just one thing. I think, just as you stated, Alderwoman Doyle, there is a high likelihood that the city will end up owning this lot, as I believe the current owners purchased the property on a tax deed sale, not realizing that it was an undevelopable piece of property. So I would anticipate they'll probably let it go for taxes, and the city will end up with it in the long term. So anyway, back to your original question, to me it would be appropriate for this committee to recommend to council to order the sidewalk in on the property.
Okay. Since I've already talked, obviously I can't make the motion, but I guess now would be a good time to see what it is that we're going to stand for and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Alderman Lewis? No? Alderman Roberts? I'm looking for a motion. Chair recognizes Alderwoman Doyle.
I get to come back in then, I guess. I do see Public Works. I know your computer's not working, Madam Chair. Do you want to go to Public Works first, or? Oh, here we go.
Is it? There it is. Chair recognizes Terry Wolsterstorm.
Thank you. My only other comment would be, if you want to make a motion to order the sidewalk in, I would suggest you put a completion date. We'll wrap that into the paperwork that's on the council agenda on Monday night. So considering the time frames that we're under and heading into winter season, you may want to do a May 1st completion date or something like that.
All right, Chair will recognize Alderman Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The problem I have with calling sidewalks in on this, and I might have a question for Terry on this, is if someone bought this piece of property on a tax deed sale thinking that they could build or possibly sell it and make some money, and now they're sitting on something paying probably relatively little taxes on it because it's non-buildable. Now we call in, and I can't tell how big the lot is from the picture, but thousands of dollars on sidewalks on them. How really fair is that to that person? I think that maybe we should contact or try to contact the owner as a city and see if they would sell it to us or give it to us, and we bear the cost rather than putting this cost on somebody on a piece of property that is worth nothing. That's my question to Public Works.
Chair recognizes Terry Wolsterstorff.
I guess I would say that's a policy issue for the council to wrestle with, but I guess I'd call it buyer beware. I think that probably every day people buy pieces of property that aren't worth anything and get stuck with stuff because they don't do their homework. In this particular case, I think the fact that the entire lot is a drainage easement is very clear. Anybody who had done any research at all would be aware of that. They should also normally would be aware that sidewalks are eventually going to be installed on a property. So considering the fact we're already going to get probably stuck with the bill for installing the sidewalk, I'm not sure why we would pay him to take his property off his hands on top of it.
And that's probably what I think is going to happen on this too, is I think we're going to call in sidewalks, and he's just not going to pay his taxes, and he's going to let it go back, but then it's going to affect the property owner in the future, giving this property back with a lien on it. So basically, I don't want to punish the property owner for not doing his homework, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I'm just having a hard time wrestling with this. I guess I'm going to have to think about it for a while. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Alderman Lewis.
And make a motion to send this to council without recommendation. Retain the floor, please.
I've got a motion by Lewis to send to council without recommendation and a second by Roberts. And Alderman Lewis, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My motion is basically because I think we need a little more time to discuss this and think about a couple of things before we make a definitive action on it. I do understand the need to have the sidewalks put in, and I do appreciate the caveat emptor from the Public Works. If I did say that correctly, buyer beware. I mean, my Latin's pretty weak these days, but anyway, point being is I do understand that people do take opportunities to buy things on tax deeds, and they think they're going to get, steal property. Maybe this will teach them not to do that in the future, but the city is going to get stuck with this eventually. And so whether or not I know there's been some changes in the developmental plans these days, but I would hate to see that the city being, I guess it's perpetuity. I just don't want to punish these people horribly. We're talking there's probably $5,000 worth of sidewalks in that thing. Get someone to come back and do it to code. So I want to think about it a little more before I make a motion on it. I mean, before I order it in, I want just a couple of days to think about it a little more. So that's my motion.
Chair recognizes Alderwoman Doyle.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, other council members. I just wanted to clarify for Ms. Christopherson sitting in the audience that council without recommendation is just what Mr. Lewis said. It just gives us a few more days to think about it without extending a formal recommendation to council Monday night. Even if we had okayed it today, it wouldn't be finalized until it goes through the full 10 of us. So that will occur on Monday night in some fashion. Could be another continuation. It could be an up or down vote. In the meantime, I know you said that your husband would like to come. I think Mr. Collings is going to try to come and help kind of clarify why this probably needs to happen, particularly in an area that's built out. But I just wanted to thank you. We will have your photographs of the area linked for Monday night, so everybody will get to see them, and we can pull them up on the screen. And then either way, if this does get voted in, we will be able to start that process. And then it's for us to work out. You're not going to need to deal with the property owner or anything like that. We will deal with whatever's going to come. So thank you for bringing all of that today.
Chair recognizes Alderman Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I do want to make it clear that I do believe the sidewalk should be put in there. I believe that, all sidewalks within Rapid City, especially in these newer developments like this, should be contiguous. I just need a little bit of time to think about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Before going to a vote, Chair has just a couple questions. Terry, on this one, is the only option to have the city put the sidewalk in and actually assess it back to this lot, or does the city have a program in which we can order sidewalks in where the city absorbs it? And if so, which fund would contribute to that?
Well, as far as which fund, it would have to be a CIP fund, but I guess I would be hesitant to start installing sidewalk for private property owners at our cost, as opposed to going through an assessment process. But that might be a legal question. I would think we can, because we do install sidewalks on major road projects occasionally. So.
Well, the only reason I was asking that is I'm also looking for options, because if we just carry this with the information given to us on this property, if the owner is going to let it go back to sheriff's deed or taxes, just let it revert back, we have the potential of ordering in sidewalks of potentially the number that's been thrown around is $5,000, plus there will be no one there to maintain this large section of the sidewalk during the winter months, which means code enforcement will be out there, and we will actually pay someone else with an administrative cost from the city and everything else to shovel this walk several times. And then let's say the city does pick it up. What happens to all that massive bill accumulated over 3 years before this goes back to property tax deed? How would the bill on that property be reconciled?
Normally, when we do these assessment projects on sidewalks, we just did them on Canyon Lake Drive and Reddale, several of them. We foot the bill to install it for those that don't get installed by the property owners. They're typically a CIP project. And then the assessment proceeds, when they come back into us, go back into that same fund. So we're paid back over a period of time. In this case, we just wouldn't get paid back. I mean, the upfront cost is still there regardless, but we just aren't going to see the reimbursement more than likely on this one.
As well as the code enforcement charges that are usually applied to properties as well?
Yeah, I mean, code enforcement charges, again, they would normally be assessed back to the property, but if nobody's paying taxes on it, we're not going to recoup those costs.
And so therefore, it wouldn't affect the county or the school districts. It would simply just be the city, and we would just end up writing this off at a future date.
Correct.
Thank you. I just wanted that clarification as we look at this for Monday night as well. So thank you. Seeing any further discussion, Chair recognizes Alderman Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for Terry Waltersdorf, please.
Terry?
So essentially, we'll be taking care of this in perpetuity?
I'd be very surprised if we don't. Yeah.
Okay. So future maintenance, if it corrodes, 10 years down the road, heaves, whatever, it's all the city's responsibility? So it's
That's
like
correct.
a park, basically. Okay.
Yeah,
Just
and
making sure.
it's a drainage feature. I mean, obviously with the new stormwater utility, our crews can do and our crews
Yeah.
will be focusing on drainage maintenance, but we've always been pretty clear that drainage maintenance is not necessarily what I would call aesthetic maintenance. We're not going to be mowing the weeds, that type of thing. We'll remove the bigger brush and trees out of the drainage facility, but not what I would call weekly or monthly maintenance.
Thank you. That's my question.
Seeing no further discussion, we do have a motion to send to council without recommendation. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We're now on to item number 18, which is a bike path assessment report, and Mr. Lon Van Dusen is approaching the podium. Thank you, Lon. We are all eyes and ears for you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I decided not to bring my 4,000 slides of sidewalk cracks for you to view at this meeting, so this will just be informational only. But as you know, back at the September 9th Public Works Committee meeting, we were asked to assess the bike path, which we did here just a few weeks ago, which is good. It gave us an opportunity to take a comprehensive look at the bike path. And we looked at primarily the stretch between the fish hatchery and the Star of the West Sports Complex, plus a few small spurs that go off tributaries into the north part of Rapid City. This was an evaluation of what we call the shared use path, which is basically the main bike path follows Rapid Creek. And included in the minutes or the agenda is a copy of the report, which I'm sure you've all had a chance to look at. And I certainly would entertain any questions that you might have. We did look at some of the issues that were brought up by former Mayor Jerry Munson, and we also included some of our own issues that we feel are perhaps hazardous with our bike path as well. So, anybody have any questions?
Seeing no one currently buzzed in, Lon, on this one, is it the recommendation to just incorporate the findings of this report into the Parks and Rec budget going forward through the CIP fund, or?
Yes, that would be our intention. We've always set aside money in our CIP budget for bike path repairs. You probably remember from Alex's report here a month or so ago that we are currently working with a consultant here to do some major repairs on several sections of the bike path.
I believe those were 4 points that were specifically mentioned in Alex's report before. I believe your report identifies several other ones, though. So you would just be looking to incorporate those into the Parks and Rec CIP budget over the years as you're looking at that 5-year plan?
That's correct.
Right.
Some of them, we haven't looked at the engineering or design work on them yet, so we really don't have any estimate of costs on these. But we do recognize them as being something important that we should look at and perhaps make the repairs.
Okay. Chair recognizes Alderman Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Lon, for all your hard work. We discussed this at Parks and Rec the other night, and appreciate former Mayor Munson bringing forth this issue. Obviously, ongoing maintenance of our bike path is definitely needed, and getting it now attached to the park CIP will be, I think, a good step. It's not as immediate as perhaps we'd like to do it, but well, maybe we can get some volunteers to do some of that stuff too as well. But I do really appreciate everybody bringing it forward and keeping it going. And I saw a lot of the photos, and there are about 4,000 or 5,000 of them. So anyway, thank you very much, sir.
Chair recognizes Alderwoman Doyle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure who the question, I'll just start with Lon. Has there been an effort to try to get a community task force together, as Mr. Munson suggested earlier on, to do some of this work, to volunteer it so that it can get moved up in time? Because we all know we can get everything done over 10, 15, 20, 30 years. I mean, eventually, but I think it should be pushed. There's a lot of people who've been injured on this thing, so.
I agree with you. I mean, when you look at that asset and what it brings to this community, we certainly should devote more time and funds to making repairs on this pathway.
Well, I think we can make up in funding. I mean, we could make up the difference with community support. I mean, I think about what Officer Ryan Phillips pulled together with the Light the Night project. I mean, that was a huge concerted community effort, and it paid off. Just the various things. Willow Park was knocked out in no time flat. And I mean, we had so many volunteers that it was like 20 people to every tool, basically. But I mean, when it's put out there, are we doing anything to bring awareness to that issue and do it in a constructed, concerted, organized effort? Or could we?
We certainly could. I would say probably at this point we don't have anything organized as far as bringing volunteer groups together to effect repairs on the bike path. But we certainly could look at that and see if there's groups out there that would help us with those issues.
Would that be something more appropriately discussed at the Parks and Rec board level or
Sure.
internally? And are you willing to start those conversations?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Chair recognizes Alderman Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Lon. And I think Alderwoman Doyle brought up a good point. I think that this is something that community-wise could be done and hopefully kicked out faster in Willow Park, because there was a year and a half of planning and fundraising on that. But it did get put together real fast once it started. And I do want to thank a few people here since you're here. But I think that the bike path would be huge. You'd have so many people from within the community that would come forward to work on this project that I think we could, by next spring, have it up and running and done. So anyway, anything I can do to help, keep me in mind. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Alderman Lewis.
Thank you, ma'am. Alderman Roberts probably shoot me for this, but perhaps his idea that he gave to me, maybe we should put forth an Adopt the Bike Path program where you adopt a certain section of it, and local organizations can take care of those certain sections, something along Adopt the Highway program that we have going out there. And I have to give the credit to Alderman Roberts. It was his idea. So, but I'm going to publicly state it. So anyway, I think it's a great idea, and I think it would be something that would work really well if we could do that. And I think you'd get a lot of community organizations involved.
Chair recognizes Alderman Roberts.
And thank you very much, Alderman Lewis, for bringing that forward. The people that brought that forward to me, I guess now they're on notice, and maybe they'll have to put their money where their mouth is. But hopefully, and I apologize for that if that upsets you, but I think that there's some very good opportunity out there, and I think we just need to start working forward on it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Before, I still need a motion on the floor.
Motion to acknowledge.
I've got a motion by Lewis to acknowledge, a second by Roberts. Before we go for the vote, it seems from this discussion up here that there doesn't require any other motion to take this back to Parks and Rec Advisory Committee or Advisory Board to look into this. We've got the liaison to the Advisory Board here for the Parks and Rec, as well as several members of the Parks and Rec's department. So it looks like this will be a fruitful idea coming forward, and we're looking forward to seeing some really good ideas coming on how to get community involvement in taking care of the bike path. That would actually, it may even create a lot of community spirit and stuff. So that's excellent ideas up here. So with that being said, no further discussion being had.
That's Lewis, Lewis, John.
Got a motion on the floor to acknowledge the report. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I've got a motion by Doyle to adjourn. Second by Roberts. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.